Our stories are brilliant. We are resilient. Our stories are brilliant. We are resilient.
Hi, resilient listeners. I'm so excited today. I have the creators of the Dash of Life podcast with me, Stefania and Laura. And I get to learn all about their mission and their podcast and get to learn to know them and talk to them today. And I'm so thrilled. So thank you guys so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
So can you give our listeners a really quick, and I don't care which of you does it. You might have one person who is like the person that who gives your elevator speech. Give me your podcast in a nutshell.
Should we say the line, Stefania?
Yeah, I think we should.
Between birth and death, there is a dash. Life
stories that inspire.
That's our tagline.
Perfect. Good to have one. That's great. I love that. And it's nice because it allows you some flexibility to talk about a bunch of things that you want to talk about.
I just think it encapsulates really like the basis of where the idea kind of lies, and then everything else gets like elaborated on from there, it's just a nice starting point, I think.
So my friend Brooke Davis, she wrote a book called Lost and Found. And in the book, there's a 7-year-old girl who at one point in the book ends up in a cemetery, and she's looking at a tombstone, and she wonders to herself, why are the birth date and the death date so big? Surely the dash in the middle should be like the biggest, brightest, most amazing part of the tombstone, because that represents the person's life. And I thought that was really cool. And then in general, I have a tendency to get really excited about biographies or people that I've learned about, and have a couple of glasses of wine at a party and just sort of like corner somebody and just chat their ear off about that particular person or that particular period in history. And I thought that might make a cool podcast.
And I think it does so far. I mean, we're so excited for people to listen and like experience the vibe of the podcast, because I think it's really unique, at least in comparison to other podcasts that I've listened to. I think that there's something different that we offer that people will find really exciting and interesting, and that will just like jazz them up in the morning or whenever they choose to listen to us.
I like it. I like it that you're coming at it from a very interested perspective, and you're trying to your listeners are going to be able to learn a lot from whoever you're speaking with. And I think that that's one of the best things. Like you're saying, we don't get to have those kind of like dinner party conversations anymore because of COVID. And if you're spread apart from people, I live in a very rural area, so I don't get to have those conversations a lot. So it's really nice for me. I'm excited to start hearing them from you guys. I think that's a great concept.
That's just really it. Fun. And I think the whole COVID thing just kind of made it even more important that we create this. And the other thing is that off of the premise that you're the result of the 5 people that you spend, you're the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. I wanted to spend time with these resilient, amazing people from history. And all of the people that we covered have passed away. So it's kind of an interesting perspective from that point as well. We get to see what they did with that dash.
Oh, that's great. So it's all different kinds of characters from history. How did you choose who to cover?
Well, Laura kind of had a sort of master list at the beginning of probably, I'd say at least like 70 or 80 options of people, just like people that she had just kind of like knew that she wanted to cover, or people that we knew were historical figures. And then we kind of both decided that we also wanted to make sure that we had a really diverse kind of snapshot of the people, like throughout history. So in season 1, we're actually super pleased at the amount of like women that we have, for example.
Mhm.
And then like I kind of was like, based on the person that Laura did for the first week, I was like, oh, well, it'd be cool to like look for like a Canadian person or whatever. And so I think that we were just sort of inspired by like random, also sort of like articles. Like I did a search once that was like the top 100 or top 10 influential women of history in Canada. And then I kind of added that to the list, and like we just kind of throughout, I think even maybe intended to do somebody else, and then through that person we're like inspired to do someone that was in conjunction with them who was a little bit lesser known. And that was really exciting to get to bring forward people that people really don't know about, and that we didn't even really know that we needed to know about. And it was like, how do we not know about this person? So like obviously we'll at times cover things, people like Martin Luther King, that are super prominent figures who most people know. But then there's that like one person over here in the corner that was like Canadian, or that was from Trinidad, or that was from wherever, where like we generally don't know about this person because they're not in like the mainstream of society.
Oh, that's fun. I like that because I wrote I wrote a couple of books about women's history of the United States, and one of them I wrote about my state. I live in Oregon, and similarly, it was great for me. There's all these incredible figures in women's history that you don't necessarily know. That like the first female fighter pilot was a Japanese American from Oregon, and that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Like, people should know that. And like, why do we not know that?
Yeah, totally.
You know, stuff
like
like
how
that.
does that get lost in the mix?
Right. Yeah. So which of you guys both have to have a favorite, I bet. Which is your favorite person that you have spoken about in your first season?
That's so hard. It's
I
so
know.
hard because I think I kind of started with an idea of people that I wanted to cover in the first place, because originally I was going to try and do it by myself, and I'm so glad that didn't work out.
Me too.
But then after like hearing some of Stefania's stories, and so Stefania would come to the table with these people that I didn't know anything about, and then after she told the story, the next couple of days I'm like talking to everybody that I know, like, oh, did you know about this person? Did you know that this happened and this happened and this happened? And then so I get really excited about the people that Stefania covers. And I think vice versa, because we just learn these new things and then get super excited about it, and then want to tell everybody else, which is what we're hoping that the listeners will get when they listen to the podcast as well. But
and we're also super aware, I think, of the fact that we are telling biographical stories that may not be 100% like on point. We might mess up as far as the historical references or dates or times or names, and that we can't possibly cover someone's life. If say they passed away when they were 85, we can't possibly cover like every important thing that they did in their life in 40 minutes of speaking, which is I think our goal generally, to have each episode, the actual story, be about 40 minutes. So I think also like a side note to what Laura said is that like we also want people to get so excited about it that they then go themselves and do more research on that person and get even more interesting stories. And then they can engage with us on social media, for example, and be like, oh my gosh, did you see that this person also did this thing over here? And we're like, I know, we just couldn't fit it in the podcast.
Yeah, we do our best to make sure that the actual research is as accurate as possible. But again, we only have 40 minutes to get all of the information in. So yeah, that's exactly right. We're trying to plant these seeds into people's brains and souls so that they get excited and then go find more information for themselves. Okay. Oh, but again, this question is really hard.
Okay, I'll go first because I have an answer. But
okay.
Okay, so I would say that so we're just gonna let's just reveal one each, because I kind of want to be like, oh, I'd like to talk about like one of Laura's that's my favorite, and then one of mine that I covered that's my favorite.
Okay.
But then I think that gives away too many. And I'm being possessive, but maybe Laura, chime in if you're like, forget it, Stefania, it's fine.
I think that's fine.
Okay. So I would say that for me, there's something about the firsts. And so for me, like, we cover this very incredible woman named Doris Anderson, who was the editor of Chatelaine magazine for 20 years. And she's the first person that I cover in the podcast. She's the first story that I tell in episode 2. And I just think that there's something really special to me about Doris, because she was my first experience like putting together a story and discovering that there's all these different layers and levels to a human in general. Not that I didn't know, but when you really dig deep into somebody's life and you get to learn about where they came from ancestrally, where they came from personally, the life they had in their immediate family home, the life they had extended family, and then when it comes to like their career and the different struggles they had throughout it, and their place in the context of history, I was just really simultaneously inspired and aggravated and motivated and frustrated and just like generally charged by the amount of influence that this woman had in sort of a quiet way. That like, I think that in today's society, we have this like attachment to fame and to notoriety and to being known and to having kind of like a global persona or an Instagram persona or all these things. And most of the people we cover are people that were living in times where that wasn't a thing, and where they achieved a level of success or notoriety or influence on their world without the aid of social media and the media in a certain kind of way. And that's like kind of a level of success that to me, like I get chills just thinking about it, about how important their work was and how it really furthered history in ways that I don't know that today's like society understands sometimes, because like we're so used to like people just having an online presence, and that you can have access to that person so easily online from like various parts of the world. But the fact that this was like a woman who was living in Toronto for the majority of her life and just had so much influence, like right up until or right into like lawmaking, really at the end of the day, I just found like so incredibly inspiring. And ironically, she's probably the story I will screw up the most because she's the first one I did. but I have like this like soft spot in my heart for her. And also because of Laura's reaction to hearing that story, I think it's also like a really special thing for me too. Because Laura really brought me into the podcast, I've always felt like I really wanted to make her proud. So I feel like I made her proud with Doris. And so that just like makes me feel really good. And this person, I just think is someone that now I really like look up to and aspire to emulate. And that's really cool.
Oh, I can't wait. Oh, she's so, and for people like me, it's interesting. I feel like I'm fairly well educated, but there aren't a lot of well-known Canadians. So it's really great for me to hear that. I really want to, I know a lot about those people from my area, but I want to know so much more. So I'm very excited. How about yours, Laura?
Cool. Very cool.
My favorite one that I did. Oh God, I was so like intrigued by Stefania's answer that I wasn't thinking about my own answer. I love
it's like
them
choosing a favorite child.
Exactly. I love them all so much, but I'm gonna have to say that my favorite was probably John Lewis, because it pissed me off so much. It just made me so angry. The whole story just made me so angry. But his place in that story and his character and his resilience and his just poise and courage, and it was just so incredibly inspiring. And it kind of opened it obviously is a story that goes in parallel with the Black Lives Matter movement in the States that really came to a head. It's been an issue obviously for a very long time, but it's really came to a head in terms of sort of like white allyship, or there's been a surgence of white allyship since May of this year with the murder of George Floyd. And so I just thought it was, as a Canadian, a very interesting story, because I had to dig back deeper because I was reading all these things that I didn't understand in the story. So I didn't really understand what Jim Crow law so I had to go back and figure out what Jim Crow law was, and kind of figure out like how all of these laws were laid out to put John Lewis in the position that he was when he came along and he wanted to go to university. So I had to learn all of that stuff to be able to understand the rest of the story. So it was a big education for me. And then I'm actually half American. My mom's from Indiana, and then talking to my mom about it, and because I learned, that when segregation was deemed unconstitutional, and then the Little Rock 7 in 1957, or Little Rock 9, sorry, 1957. And then I thought, oh, well, my mom was born in 1957, so surely she never went to a segregated school. And then I was talking to her about it, and she was like, no, my school didn't get desegregated until 1968. And I was like, what is going on? And so, yeah, it was a really interesting education for myself. And then him as John Lewis as a human being is just a really excellent example of how to be a human, I think.
Exceptional.
Oh yeah, incredible story. Oh, I'm looking forward to that too. I think, and I think that having a different perspective, it's interesting, because to me that's something I grew up, Jim Crow laws and the like. I'm from the Northwest, but I still knew about that from my family. So I think having your perspective on it gives you more of a broader look at the whole story. So I think that'll be a fantastically well told one. It sounds like it'll be wonderful.
And Jennifer, that was probably one of the biggest challenges when we were telling these stories and creating them, because there were so many opportunities for us to provide extra information about a social movement that was happening at the time, or things like Jim Crow laws. And then it was like, okay, but we have to just stick to the story, because otherwise we're going to be telling 4-hour stories. So we have to kind of be like, we're not going to go into detail about that. If people want to, they can. And then if maybe at a later date we choose to like do a little mini-sode that just covers that topic, that's kind of our way of being able to attempt to kind of penetrate those ideas. But that at some points we both just got so enraptured by the context of some of these people and the importance that the context had on their lives, and the influence that it really had on the decisions they made on a day-to-day basis, that it was hard to be like, well, but we kind of need to say that. Like, what do we do?
It was so hard. And we both got really carried away with some, and then we had to take a step back and be like, okay, this is going to take us forever to edit. So let's go back to the drawing board and kind of figure it out again. Oh, man.
And Laura's primarily been doing most of the sound editing. God bless her. And there was one day I remember we had a conversation about like, she's like, okay, so there's this thing that you say. So like, first of all, are you okay to reveal that? And second of all, how relevant is it? And I was like, you know what? It's like a great story. You're writing a story and you're like, I love this line. I love this scene. I love this thing, but it doesn't fit. It's got to go. It's like cutting room floor. You can't have any like preciousness about it. And said she just started hacking. Oh my She's like clear cutting in the podcast.
Oh no.
I think they were
That's a
just
lot like
really
writing a book.
cognizant of the fact. Yeah,
Yes.
I would imagine so. Yeah, and it's just like we are really conscious of the fact that these listeners are spending their time with you, and I just want to make it the most valuable, the most bang for their buck, provide the most value in the 40 minutes as possible so that they get a clear idea of the story, and if they're excited about it, then they can go find out more.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a great standpoint. So to circle back a little bit, let's tell the listeners something about both of you, where a little bit about your background and how you guys met, and how it worked out better to be together rather than apart, Laura.
Oh, okay. Sure. So I have a environmental health and safety consulting company. That's sort of my job. And then I'm also an artist. I'm a painter. And I met this lovely man who played George Harrison in a Beatles cover band, which was just perfect for me. And then he just so happened to be there. He's got a group of high school friends, and one of his best friends was getting married in India. And he asked me if I wanted to go, and I said, sure. And then one of his other buddies, Mark, was bringing this beautiful Italian woman as his plus one. And part of the deal for going to this wedding was that we had to learn this like Bollywood style dance, flash mob dance, to do as part of the ceremony. And so Stefania and I actually met as respective plus ones for this wedding and learning how to do this dance.
Oh my gosh.
It was pretty amazing. And there's actually, we've posted the video of us doing the dance at the wedding in India
on our website
and on our Instagram. And it's really hilarious because you can tell that maybe we've had a bit too much wine before doing the dance, because some of the moves are like we're supposed to go to the left and I go to the right, or like we're supposed to swing our hips to the right and do a twist, and then we go the opposite. Like, it's hilarious and awesome and so fun.
Dancing is not my forte, but it was really fun.
Well, and none of us are really dancers. I mean, I'm an actress, actually. That's my like trade, art. I'm an actress in film and TV, and I also have a theater production company, Dream of Passion Productions. And the friend that brought me to India, Mark, he's also my co-producer he was my co-producer on a project we had to cancel because of COVID. But it was, yeah. So in spite of the fact that I'm an actress, dancing choreography is very different from just being a good dancer in general. And so I think we had a really good time, like rehearsing and everything. And I also remember having some insecurities around, because I was like because Mark and I are just friends and everybody else was there as couples. And I constantly kept thinking like, oh my God, these people hate me. They wish I wasn't coming to India. Like, just like,
oh, no.
Who is this girl? She's nuts. But Laura and I really hit it off, and Mike noticed that. And like down to the point where at one point we were at the wedding in India and the bar hadn't opened yet. And we had kind of arrived to the hall earlier than other people. And then finally the bar opened, and I like ran over to find Laura, and she wasn't there. And I was like, Mike, where's Laura? And he's like,
the
she's
bar's
in the
open.
bathroom. And I'm like, the bar's open. So then Laura comes back from the bathroom, and Mike's like, you have to find Stefania.
And I did, and we had a great time.
So yeah, and like we said earlier, like Laura, it was because of that connection that when Laura was attempting to do the podcast on her own, and she was sort of using Mike as a sounding board, when they sort of talked about the show, Mike was like, you need to get someone like Stefania. Or
he actually said, he's like, you need to get Stefania or someone like Stefania, but you need to get Stefania to like do this with you, kind of thing. And then it was funny because we had another friend who had met Stefania and Mark and then looked them up on the internet because they're so awesome and wanted to know more. And then she said to my friend, "Oh, Mark and Stefania have a podcast together." But she saw the information for the play that they were producing, not a podcast. So then I asked Stefania, I was like, "Oh, do you and Mark have a podcast?" And she said, "No." And I said, "Well, do you want to have a podcast with me?" So it was like a perfect segue moment for me to ask her.
It was like a wedding proposal, really. She basically got down on one knee.
Pretty much, with a bottle of rosé.
Yeah. A couple of bottles of rosé and then later a little bit of white. I think a blessing to the proposal of doing a podcast together was the fact that being in this COVID year, nobody can take the podcast away from us because everything is possible while we maintain, if necessary, social distancing, etc., isolation and whatnot. And I was really inspired and excited to get to work on a creative project with somebody that I thought was awesome and just like welcomed spending more time with. And to know that 2-3 weeks down the road, a month down the road, 6 months down the road, no one can come in and be like, "Sorry, you can't do it anymore." That was super exciting and really provided a really beautiful creative place for us to build and grow this podcast.
It is. It's a wonderful venue because so many of us, gosh, I've had, just like everyone, all of my events were canceled since January. And it's really nice to be able to work in a creative space and still be in your house or in your studio. It's pretty amazing. So do you guys have a very rigid recording routine, or do you plan a year in advance, a month in advance? How does it work for you?
We've recorded the first season. So we're kind of running in seasons where we'll do 10 episodes of biographies, and then we'll have some interlude episodes before we carry on with the next season. So we've recorded basically the whole first season already. And we start releasing weekly episodes on January 5th. So we have a trailer out now, and then we'll have our intro episode out December 8th. And then we're having a Zoom launch party on December 11th, which we'll tell you all about. And then weekly episodes coming out January 5th. So we are ahead of the game.
Oh, that's wonderful. Not having to play catch up is really helpful. I got into a sort of a jam at the end of my last season where I had all these recordings and then I couldn't get them out fast enough. So
wow, yeah.
It's nice. Yeah, it just kind of bookended that way. So it's nice that you have a good routine. Are you guys routine driven in your daily life, or are you kind of seat of the pants kind of people?
I would say that for me, my career sort of doesn't allow for routine to really last for too long because all of a sudden the rug gets pulled out from under you. And it's like, oh no, you have to be at this place this time for this thing. And then you can't do all the things you had a routine for. So I like to try and have as much routine as possible. I think with the podcast, Laura had a lot of, I think, exposure to the various advice around how to do a podcast well and how to execute a podcast well and how to schedule and stuff like that. And so I think she was sort of the driver in the sense of being like, okay, well, we have to record this and we have to record this and we have to record this. And I was like, okay. And I was just kind of like going along for the ride. But that's been really great because now we sort of have this downtime where we can like iron out kinks and fix this here and there and add this other aspect or element that we didn't know we wanted. And then we have the opportunity to like re-record things if we have to, and then to feel like we will be able to expand on the episodes when we're releasing them weekly rather than having to record as we record the same season as we're in the season. Because I think if anything, we might we'll start recording season 2 while season 1 is running. So I think that as far as routine is concerned, like we've sort of constructed the machine in a certain way with the hopes that we can maintain that kind of routine aspect in future.
No, I think that makes sense. That's perfect.
Yeah, I think for me, I am sort of in the same boat, although in a very different field. And I have to prioritize and reprioritize sort of on a daily, if not hourly basis
Yeah.
as to what needs to get done, kind of thing, as somebody that manages owns a business. And Stefania and I are both very creative people, and I think that's sort of another bonus to working with Stefania, is that she understands how to execute a creative project. And I saw with her working on that play that was canceled how hard she worked and how dedicated she was to the project. So I thought that was really cool. And I have the same thing. Like if I'm going to do something, then I want to do it. And so I'll figure it out. And it was funny. At one point, Stefania was like, and Laura just seemed to have all of the answers. And I was like, haha, fooled you, because I had none of the answers. So yeah, I mean, I knew that we needed to get episodes recorded early, because we're both very busy people and both kind of unpredictable people in terms of schedules. So we needed to figure out how to get it done while having the understanding that we could be pulled away at any time to work on whatever. And that's happened, and we've been able to work around it, and it seems to have been working out great so far.
Oh, that's fabulous. Working in group projects it can be really, really
Yeah,
hard.
it can.
So it's nice. Yeah, it's nice that you guys understand the way that each other work, because everyone hates to be the one guy holding the bag all the time.
Yeah.
So it's nice that you guys can both be really flexible in that way.
Totally.
So do you guys have it? Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to add that I think that there have been times where we have been scheduled to record, and whatever has been going on, and either one of us didn't feel like recording. And then when we actually like sat down and did it, the process of doing that and focusing on what we needed to focus on, and then also telling the story, and then reminding ourselves of like, oh, this person did this, this, and this, and it was so awesome. We kind of like pulled ourselves out of that feeling of not wanting to do it, which is cool.
Yeah, that's very cool. So what do you guys like to do for fun? Do you guys have any fun hobbies? Or it sounds like you're both extremely busy, but do you do something like, I find that during this COVID time, I've had periods of time where I've really wanted to do lots of hobbies, and sometimes where you just want to watch TV, but to be totally honest, but is there been something that's been fun that's been getting you through this time?
We like to go for walks and talk about the podcast.
So working,
this
just
is
different.
This is always an interesting question for me. And there's actually like an Instagram live that Laura and I did where this question came up. And every time people ask me about hobbies, I actually feel like I have heart palpitations, because as an actor, I feel like you never really have time to commit to hobbies, because like I said earlier, you could commit to something and then you have to cancel all the time. Like it happens all the time. And I actually think that like Murphy's Law, like I think that Murphy has it in for actors, because it's like the second you plan a vacation, you book a job. The second you have a wedding to go to, you book a job. And you're constantly having to make these like really challenging kind of moral decisions on what's more important to you. Like you're constantly having to reevaluate what you value in life. It's quite exhausting at times. And I find that with hobbies, it has to be something that like can be dropped or picked up occasionally here and there, but you can't like commit to being on like the Urban Rec volleyball team weekly, because you're not going to make it to 12 of the 15 games. But what was really beautiful is that during COVID, Laura started doing these paint nights with her paint company. And her and I, like, I kept trying to like join the actual paint night and be part of the group paint night, but it never worked out for whatever reason. And then Laura and I just like personally painted together, like one-on-one doing Instagram. And I had this idea to paint these like paintings that would bring love into my life. And I painted a series of essentially animals who are necking. and there's birds, and then there's 2 lions, and then there's 2 dolphins. So it's become this like triad or triptych of paintings that are now like on my wall. And I guess like for me, like painting sort of became a bit of a hobby during like the official lockdown of COVID time. And it was also like a really wonderful time for like Laura and I to get to spend some like one-on-one time together and get to know each other even better, which could be partially why Laura felt so comfortable like asking me to come on board for the podcast, because we'd had those like really intimate long period hangouts that we hadn't really had, I don't think, for a long time, if we had them ever really.
Yeah,
And
no, I
so-
don't think so.
Yeah, so that was like a really beautiful experience that like came out of COVID and then sort of potentially led the energy to the podcast.
What about you, Laura? Do you have any? It sounds like you also have a hard time finding time for a hobby.
I think that the whole genesis of this podcast is that I learn something and then I get obsessed with it, and then it takes over my life, and then it's not a hobby anymore. It's just
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I guess I play guitar and sing a little bit, which is fun. And then I paddleboard. I feel like those are the two things that I'm like, but even still, like even with guitar, I'm like, oh, I gotta get way better. And I find challenges, and then I'm like, okay, I gotta do this kind of thing. And it's I don't know if that's healthy or what, but that's kind of what I do. But it has been busy for me during COVID as an artist. It's kind of been a real blessing, because it's like, oh, I don't have to go out. Great. I'm just going to sit here and work on my paintings. And I started a paint night thing in January. So I've been teaching other people how to paint, and I did some murals earlier in the year and stuff. So that is, that really takes up a lot of my time. And then, yeah, so that's not a really great answer to your question. I'm sorry. We're not great at the hobby question.
But to add to that, I'd like to say that I think that in a way, the fact that these kind of passions become hobbies has made the execution of the podcast like exponentially easier, in the sense that like Laura does the podcast artwork as well for our weekly episodes. She'll be doing the podcast artwork and has done a lot of it already. And then the Dash of Life theme song, she composed it, like her partner Mike essentially composed it and put it together. And at first it was just Laura and Mike singing on it, because that was before I came on board. And then the other day we recorded a new version where my voice is in it too. So we were even like able to come up with the music for the podcast. And so there's all these things and skills that we've each brought to the table from our various hobbies, like me from like producing, which isn't really a hobby, is more of like a side job, but where we gained these skills from these other aspects, and then we're able to bring them in to the podcast creation, like right down to like knowing how to use MailChimp and having Laura's skills on that with like mailing lists, because I can never figure that stuff out. But like, so like being able to keep it all in house and not have to essentially outsource a lot of the stuff that maybe people who didn't have those kind of skills or hobbies or whatnot, they kind of have to. And so that was like really made it so real so quickly, I think, that we were just like able to make shit happen in house.
Oh, I think that's great. It's kind of like you're using your skill sets, and it's meshing perfectly, and it's working out very well.
It's funny because hearing Stefania say that is you pick that out when you're covering the people that we cover in the podcast stories, is that they don't know why they picked up this hobby. It just kind of interested them, or they don't know why they kind of went down this path. It was just an interesting thing for them to do. And then lo and behold, these skills kind of built on each other, and then life happened and they were able to figure things out or make things better through using these different skill sets that they just kind of picked up along the way. It's really interesting.
It is, and it's funny to think about how, maybe we're called to that for a reason, or maybe it was an accident, or who knows. But I'm glad it's working for you guys. It seems like your skill sets are very complementary, and And it seems like you guys have I love the perspectives that you have for your show. I'm so excited about it.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you.
I thank you guys so much for coming to talk to me today. I very much look forward to the show, and I wish you all
Thank
the
you so
success.
much.
Thank you so much, Jennifer.
I wanted to make sure that listeners have all of the places that they can follow the Dash of Life podcast. You can go to their website, dashoflifepodcast.com. You can follow them on Instagram at Dash of Life Podcast. You can see them on Facebook at Dash O Life Pod. You could join their Facebook group, which is at www.facebook.com/groups/Dash of Life Podcast /. Or you could follow them on Twitter at Dash of Life Pod. Please go follow them at all of those places.
Sometimes we have to start over. Sometimes we have to fight back. Sometimes it's all too much. Lost inside the black. Our stories are brilliant. We are resilient. Our stories are brilliant. We are resilient. Sometimes we need to lift the voices of those who've overcome and expose the ones that made the choices to stay and fight, not run.